Hey, yo, what's up? So, I wanted to talk about how being ugly almost feels like you're a criminal to some extent, right? It almost is like the just being attractive felon theory, right? Except you missed out on the attractive part. Because it's almost as if, when people say, oh, live up to your full potential, right? It's like you never will be, right? You can never live up to the full potential of what a person could live up to, right? You're doing yourself a disservice just by not being born with the ideals, right? The ideal, bone structure, right? That women will desire. So it's like when a woman sees you, she basically is almost like, hey, you don't live up to the like your full potential, like the full potential of what a male can live up to, right? Because especially with looks inflation, right? Maybe years ago, right? She'd only have a basic idea of what a very attractive man could look like, right? She could imagine that a hot guy was just. She had a limited idea of what a hot guy could look like, right? Because it'd be limited by the hot guys that are available to her in her real actual life, her actual proximity, right? Not actual hot guys that can exist, on the other side of the world. She wouldn't know about a maybe a true, close to perfect, right, hot guy. So her idea of a hot guy could just be warped by whatever is available to her area, right? So maybe, in what if that was only a 6 out of 10, right? That was the most attractive guy in her area. Well, to her, that 6 out of 10 is basically now a 10 out of 10, right? Because it's the hottest guy in her area. So, but now looks inflation in the internet. She can just go, on a dating app or social media, and have her algorithm curated to just show her like actual hot guys that are like classified as like a 9 or 10 out of 10, right? So that guy that used to be a 6 out of 10 and used to be the hottest guy she knew is now whatever, right? He doesn't live up to the full potential, right? And that's basically the gist of it, right? You'll never live up to the full potential that women kind of expect you to live up to, right? So it's like you're doing yourself a disservice and them a disservice, right? And it's mostly to you though, right? Because you almost feel like something's missing, right? Like I could be doing better, right? And you're gaslit by other people when they say, oh, just put in more effort, bro, as if more effort it guarantees you anything, right? Because there's the sad reality is, right, there's tons of guys who will not put in any effort, right? Like I said, they'll just wake up, and just go on with their life, right? They won't do any self-improvement stuff, right? They just exist, right? There's tons of them, right? I'll always remember, right, when I went to school, like high school or college, right? There's tons of guys who just show up to class in like pajamas or whatever clothes, right? They don't dress up or do their hair, do anything that people will tell you to do, right? Any of the self-improvement stuff, right? No guy was in like exceptional shape or whatever, right? Very few of them, right? And even the guys who played sports, they were maybe not, they were just, a lot of them were just not fat, right? They weren't necessarily like, oh, what you, I guess like what the standard for, what is it, the teenager who's on steroids on social media now, right? They didn't look like that. They just looked, like a normal, ordinary, somewhat fit kid, right? Very few actually, had, actual development, right? Nothing compared to, whatever social media shows nowadays. Like, right, with, let's just hop on steroids or peptides, bro, right? That kind of stuff. So, none of those kids, none of those people in high school or college, like I said, most of them weren't anything special. I mean, like, if you were to rate them, right, like, how, like some black pill incel autist would do it, right? On like some like looks maxing website, right? You know, a lot of them, people say, oh bro, he you know, it's over for him, right? But this guy still just, you know, woke up out of bed and just existed, and you know, girls liked him, right? You know, the guy, I still remember one of the guys was in the English literature class I had in college, right, where it was mostly girls, like 20 something girls in the class, and I was like one of the 5-6 guys in there. You know, one of them was, you know, a average height. You know, they'd say it's over because he was like 5'7", 5'8". You know, not he wasn't even white. He was like Mexican or Hispanic or whatever, right? That's the point, right? He wasn't whatever, like some white Chad, you know, what, or Tyrone or whatever, right? Like, you know, people would say it's over, but nope, you know, he just existed. He didn't try to be outgoing or whatever, you know, but he just existed, and the girls would talk to him, right? They just went up and you know, eventually just talked to him because of the classwork or whatever, right? So there was like some forced interaction, I guess, to begin, but then, you know, they would continue to talk to him, right? You know, after, and, you know, talk about other stuff, right? But here's the funny thing, right? So even though, sure, yeah, they didn't initiate right off the bat, right? They didn't. Maybe you could cope and say, oh, they didn't show genuine desire, bro. They had to do a forced interaction. That's why they talked to him. But they continued to talk to him, right? And the thing is, like, the girls could have had a forced interaction with me, but they didn't. The thing is, they still would just kind of sit there silently next to me, right? And not actually, you know, speak about the classwork to me. So even during a forced interaction, they still didn't talk to me, right? So it wasn't even a forced interaction, right? So it's like there was nothing to talk about, right? It's like we just didn't talk. We just sat next to each other while other people talked about the classwork, you know. But they would talk, like I said, the girls would talk to each other, right? Because of in-group bias. Women are more biased and accepting and more forgiving of other women, right? Especially if they have the option of, they have to talk to another woman or another guy, they're gonna talk to the woman, right? Unless the guy is like hyper attractive, I guess. But you know, but not with that guy, right? So, you know, there's there's levels to it, right? There's like very unattractive, and then there's like permissible unattractive, right? Or something like that, where you're not so unattractive where women are repulsed and, you know, completely avoid you even during forced interactions, where in theory these women would talk to me, right? In theory, these women should have talked to me just like they talked to the other guy, right? They talked and did partner work with the other guy, but they chose not to talk to me, right? So, you know, what's the difference, right? Because like I said, you know, you can't even cope, right? There's going to be guys who cope with height, right? That's one of the biggest copes ever, right? Height is not that big of a deal unless you're like super short, like maybe under 5'5", and at that point, you know, you're basically the height of most women, or, you know, shorter than them. But I think at like 5'7", you're still kind of okay, right? Sure, you won't you know, be a slayer, right? For unless you have a very attractive face, but I don't think it's not that it's over yet, right? So I was taller than that guy, right? Because like I said, he was like 5'7", 5'8", and you know, I'm like 5'10", so with shoes there, you know, I would have been maybe 5'11" or even 6 foot, right? If I just stood and angled the right height, I can maybe, I don't know, fraud or something. I don't even know, right? But the point is, I was a decent amount taller than him, right? You know, in the class, it was it was in Southern California, so there were a lot of other Hispanic, you know, Mexican guys in the class, right? That was the majority of them, and I still remember I was the tallest guy in that class, right? So I mean, it's not to say, oh yeah, bro, I'm so tall, I'm mager. No, just for, you know, for perspective, right? Because, you know, like I said, I guess on the internet, you know, 5'10" is nothing, right? But in that class, I was the tallest guy in the class. Yet, that didn't work for me, right? So, you know, height is a huge cope. You know, it really is. You know, because, like I said, tallest guy in the class, yet no girls still didn't even want to talk to me, right? even if you, in theory, mog other guys, right, by being taller than them, well, guess what? The other guys, got girls to talk to them, because they just like the other guy better, right? At the end of the day, you can't decide, you can't just cope and say, oh, bro, it's like, I got this objective feature, right? Like, attraction isn't just a checklist kind of thing, right? Where you can't just say, oh, women are attracted to XYZ. All right, let's acquire XYZ. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, right? Because if it did, there'd be no such thing as incels, right? Because then effort would pay off, right? You could put in effort and actually, work towards a girlfriend. It'd be an achievable goal. But it isn't an achievable goal. No matter what effort you put in, it's not guaranteed, right? Like I said, tons of the other guys didn't put in effort and they got results. So, because it all goes back to the people thinking relationships are merit-based or moral-based, and, oh, bro, just put in effort or or be a good person or whatever, right? That doesn't guarantee anything, right? Nothing is guaranteed, right? So the only way to, I guess, even if you are, maybe a 10 out of 10 guy, right? You're not even guaranteed a girlfriend then, right? Because, you may just never, I don't know, for some reason, I don't know, the girls may, who knows, right? You may just never find a girl who, matches what you like, right? Or experience mutual attraction, or sure, they're attracted to you, but maybe you're just not attracted to them, right? It's like such, I guess that example is kind of a cope, right? That, oh, bro, if you're a 10 out of 10, then you can't get a girlfriend, well, you're coping, right? Well, sure, whatever, right? Or maybe at that point you maybe just do have I was going to say completely insufferable personality, but even that's not true, right? Because, there's tons of people who are bad people and still get a girlfriend, right? There's tons of, awkward, boring guys, right? There's guys who will do nothing but play video games, right? Go on Reddit, right? There's girls posting on there. It's like, oh, my boyfriend just plays video games all day. There was always that one post that I'll never forget. My boyfriend doesn't even wipe his ass, right? He thinks it's gay. But that's the thing. You're like, what? That's weird, right? But the thing is, that guy had his girlfriend complaining about him, right? A woman is complaining about him. That means that girl, is, at one point slept with him, right? And is, validating his existence. But he doesn't wipe his ass. It's like, do you see how, you don't have to be a good person or or be an exciting or whatever, right? Because like I said, not just that guy, but, the guys, oh yeah, the girls who complain, oh, he just plays video games all day or whatever, he ignores me, right? It's like all this stuff, right? It's like, imagine that. So it's not like even, oh, he ignores me because he's going outside and, hitting on girls and flirting with them or whatever. No, he's inside playing video games all day. Yeah, I'm still in a relationship with him and I'm not cheating on him, right? It's like think about it. Isn't that so crazy? How it just kind of proves you don't have to be be like, oh, bro, just have an exciting personality and go do everything, right? Be outgoing or whatever. It's like, how is that guy outgoing if he just stays inside and plays video games all day? Like, he isn't. He's what other guys, what alpha male guys would call a loser, right? He doesn't go outside. He just stays inside and plays video games all day, but he has a girlfriend. So it's like, it is what it is, right? So it all comes back down to it's not about, being a Chad or being perfect to get a girlfriend. It's just about you can't be not good enough. And that's the impossible part, because that's, some guys, it's not something you can even measure, right? Because if you ask a girl, right, she's not even going to know herself, right? She's not going to be able to quantify, oh, meet these certain metrics, right? And then you can get a girlfriend, right? That's just not how it works. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. There's no quantifiable way, right? Even if you were to, even if you can, find out what qualities make a male attractive, right? Because we know, you can't even qualify them or quantify them for certain girls, right? It's like some will weigh different things more than others, right? But I mean, but obviously, the more attractive your face is, and the bit better your bones and your frame and all that stuff, the more leeway you can get away with, right? And it's easier to meet the bare minimum. But for some guys, it's just not. You'll never just be enough, right? And it just is what it is, right? And it all goes back down to you'll never be able to live up to what is put up as your full potential, right? Because for some reason it's almost talked about as if every guy can reach the same potential, right? Every guy is an equal, right? But that's obviously not true, right? There's genetic variation, and some guys are just going to be better in certain areas than others, and some of those areas that some guys are better, those areas are given more weight in what women find attractive, right? Women care about certain things more than other things, right? Maybe the guy who's really good at video games, right, or something like that. But guess what? Most women aren't going to care, right? They're going to care about a guy who's, better at being taller, right? Who's better at being more facially attractive, right? Or are they going to care about some guy who's, very, good at math or something like that, good at like stuff like that? Well, if he doesn't have any of if he's not good at any of the other physical traits, right? Like having a good enough face or stuff like that, then it almost doesn't matter, right? It almost doesn't matter, because you have to be good enough at being facially attractive and having a good frame, good height, all this stuff. If you're not good enough at those, then nothing else matters. So yeah, you'll never live up to the full potential that society kind of perpetuates, right? They perpetuate the myth that, every guy can meet the bar of being a Chad or something like that, right? But that's obviously just a cope. That's not true, because some guy, like I just said, some guys, not everyone's genetic ceiling is different, and the genetic ceiling for some guys will never meet the what is it called? The minimum threshold that women require to be an attractive mate or a potential mate. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling now, but TLDR. You just can't be not good enough, like always, right? It always comes back down to that, right? You can't have not good enough bones, or else it's basically over. You don't have to be perfect, or you don't have to be Chad. That's black pill and cell cope. But you just can't be not good enough, whatever that means, right? Because even I don't know what it means. So yeah, and not even women know what it means either, right? So they it's like those things. You know it when you see it, right? You know when a guy's not good enough when you see it. So yeah, that's kind of it for now. Later.